19 or 18, or it's not getting old. So, our whole mission is to collect unclaimed cremations and give them respectful burials. So that's our mission, and a little bit about us. We started with Renee Strover. She's a funeral director from Hamilton's Funeral Home. She had hips, or she has hip dysplasia, and she was going to be out of work for like 3 months. And she told her boss, I am not laying in bed doing nothing. I have to do something. What can I do? Her boss says, we have 300 unclaimed cremations in our basement. Can we find a home for them? So when they started going to research them, she had called family members, she had done all of this. She got to that point, she asked us if we would assist her. And we helped her, and we got it down to 85. The reason she first came to us was probably the saddest part of our whole story is she had 7 unclaimed children, and she needed a burial spot for them. So one of the ladies came to us, said, do you guys have a burial spot in your cemetery, which is Avon Cemetery on the southeast side of Des Moines? And we asked a friend of ours, he gave up a spot for it. We did the whole presentation, did the service and everything. And then we asked, was there anything else we could do for her? And they said, we have 150 people left. What can we do to help her with that? We said, well, we can give you another spot. So we have a second spot for those. But what it ended up being was after the 150, she gave us a list of the names. Chris and I started researching them, and we took it down to 85 for her. We had some really great stories. We had contacted people. Oh, I thought my sister picked up mom. Oh, I thought that sister picked up mom. I thought that sister picked up mom. So it was just a confusion. They lost mom. Nobody ever thought about, hey, where's mom at? So we got that one. One of my favorite ones was a young man that I found on the internet. His name was on the adoption registry list. He was looking for his biological mother. So I contacted him. He was down in Houston, Texas. He said, I would love my mom, and what can I do? So we asked. He sent up documentations. He had his adoption papers where she had signed them, and then this and that. He sent all of those to us, and we said, we'll be more than happy to give your mom back to you. He knew his mom until he was like 4 years old. So he had some memory of her. So we were able to connect them back together. The funny thing was with him living in Houston and us up in Des Moines, it's like, how do we do this? And he goes, oh, my girlfriend lives in Ankeny. So she stopped by, picked it up, and the next week she was on her way to Houston, Texas, and gave mom to the son. So we do have some really neat stories that we come across. Doing all these researches, we find a lot of neat things. So yes, we had our first burial was 7 children. Very sad situation. From that one there, we learned never to judge what it was. We learned what the stories were, and your first concept is, oh, who could do this? And we still have that, but we learned to move through it. Just who in here has been in the military? So we've always learned, okay, yeah, that might not fit me mentally, but I have to proceed on and get past it. Well, and that's what we've learned to do is these mental situations we hit, we have to move on past it and get to our final mission. So that's what we do. Then we had service for, I think it was 3 veterans with the first service. And then from the 3 veterans, we moved on to 85 civilians. And then we've had a bunch between. So we've had, when we get to a process of it, we have every cremation in front of us. We divide them out into known veteran spouses, civilians, and then children. And all this, all the veterans we know we have to get eligibility for, so we research them. We have to get their DD-214, make sure they're eligible. Just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you are eligible. So we do have some that were honorably discharged, but because they never went into a theater of war or anything like that, they were not eligible for burial in the veteran cemetery. But we still recognize them with their honors that they can get. Then we have the spouses. We have to research all the spouses. And with the spouses, we have to at least get their marriage record, try and find their birth records, their death records, and things like that. Then, so we do that with all the civilians. We have to research them all because somebody will come back and say, oh, we have 5 veterans in here. By the time we're done researching, we might have 20 veterans in there. So we have to figure all that out and get their respect that they do. Of the civilians, when we're researching them, one of the things we try and do is find out if they have a burial spot. Try to get them to that burial spot. We see if they have another spouse. Chris ran into one that she knew, and the first thing she did, she called back to the funeral home and said, where's the wife? She should be with him. And the nephew picked up the wife, so we called the nephew, and the nephew came and got the husband. So we do have those situations. We have 5 now, 10 now, ready for burial. Pushing 15, that we have burial spots for them, so they'll be buried next to their spouses. So are we perfect? No. Do we try and get as many that way as we can? Yes. And sometimes it's beyond our means. Since we're a nonprofit, we went nonprofit 3 years ago, I believe it was. And with us going nonprofit, none of us take a salary. Everybody's volunteer. We do not want a salary. It's all supposed to come from the heart, and that's what we want. If somebody comes in and says, well, how much do you pay? Nope. Alyssa asked me, are you a paid employee? It's like, nope, we have no paid employees. We'll never have paid employees. That's not our intent. Our intent is to do the right thing. So yes, so we have, every year we have a veterans burial. In Iowa Veterans Cemetery, we've buried, this year in the actual cemetery will take us to, I want to say 95. But because we know we have some veterans that were not eligible, they are buried in the civilian grave. They're still veterans, so we give them that respect. They have their medallion. They get their respect every year whenever we put the flags out. We're thinking this year we might hit 100 veterans, so that'll be nice getting them back. The children, they're a different story. Like I said, the first one was 7. The last one was 35 children we buried that were unclaimed. It was nice. We were able to get some of them back to the family that didn't expect it. One lady, her son was 15 years old when he died, had some rare genetic disease. She donated his body to science, to research. They said, you'll never get his body back. Well, they cremated his body when they were done, sent it back, and didn't let her know. The funeral home received it. They weren't supposed to. They didn't know. So they didn't contact her. And then it took us about 3 to 6 months to contact her, and we finally got her back, and her and her son are back together. So that's really nice. What else? Any questions right now? Yes, sir.
How do you raise money?
We just come around like this here and do it. State Fair is a big fundraiser for us. We usually get 300 to 500 there. We do a fundraiser this year. It's June, I think June or July. It's at Miss Kitty's. July. At Miss Kitty's we'll have a fundraiser, and we do auctions and stuff like that. And then throughout the year, people hear about us and they just donate to us. And we've had some big Quick Stars donated $5,000 to us. And this year the Elks is sponsoring us, so the Elks will be giving us a check in June. Everything goes to a funeral. People don't think about how much a funeral actually costs. And even with us doing it for free, the first burial is cheap, or the first burial is expensive, all the others are cheap. So in the 150 that we just buried 2 weeks ago, we buried 150 unclaimed civilians 2 weeks ago. The first one's the expensive one because you got to buy a vault. If you don't have a spot for the burial, we have to purchase that. We have to pay the grave digger, all those little minor expenses. And then I think it costs us $5,000 roughly, $5,000 to $6,000. But everybody else after that's cheap. So the first one's the expense, everyone else is gratis. Same thing with the veterans. The veterans, they're free going in, but we have to pay $300 for all the spouses to be buried. So any veterans out here that are going to Iowa Veteran Cemetery, you got your spouse's spot reserved too? Okay. So we pay for the spouses in those situations like that as we find them. We pay for all the paperwork that we need to research for. DC, we had to pay for marriage license for John Watkins and his wife Joan over here. We had to pay for their marriage license. So we pay for all of those things. At the services, we pay for any catering that we do because our veteran services now are up to roughly 500 people at the church service, 500 to 600 people. It's getting big. And then when we left the church service, we got to the cemetery and there was 200 people already there. So we have water we purchase. We will buy cookies and things like that. Sometimes Hy-Vee will give them to us at a great discount, 90% off them. So we're paying minimal. Other times we do have to pay for certain things, cups and plates and the rental of the church. We pay for the rental of the church. So there's a whole lot that goes into it. I'm glad I'm not a funeral director. I'm glad we have Lene who does all that. So it goes on that way. The headstone, so far where we've been lucky, the headstones have been donated to us, but at some point one of them will say, yeah, at least pay us for the stone or something. So we know that's coming. We're trying to expand ourselves out, not so much that we are expanding us, but we want to be a mentor for other states to do the same thing because Iowa is not unique in having unclaimed cremations. There's like, I think they said 1 million pounds or 15,000 pounds of cremations a year, I believe it is. And it's a lot. There's a lot of unclaimed people. In the 10 years, I'm going to say, 8, 9, 10 years that we've been doing it, we've probably done 3, 6, probably close to 1,000 urns we've touched. So that's just here in Iowa. We've received them from Missouri. Missouri has seen our story on national news and that. They called up and said, hey, we have a veteran. Can you guys bury him? We have a husband and wife. Can you bury him for us? We even had Miami, I think it was Miami, Florida, call us and said, we have a veteran that was killed down here who was homeless. They sent him up to us. We did all the research. He was one of those who had the documentation, but he was never called to service, so he wasn't eligible for veteran burial, but he got veteran honors. So, any other questions? Yes, sir. We have a whole lot of homeless, yes. And to us, they're treated just like anybody else. The 150 that we just buried, Chris runs our cemetery, and with them being in our cemetery, Chris will take every person, take their story. She's got their birth, their death. If there was an obituary, because sometimes you'll find an obit, she'll take any documentation we have and she'll put it in their file at the cemetery. So everybody is a person again. One of the things that we have, and every state is different, is the state of Iowa, civilians, they cannot get rid of unclaimed cremations until 60 days after the death. Veterans, they have to wait 90 days. And the way the law is written, it says they have to be disposed of in a respectful manner. They don't say what that respectful manner is. So they could be given a respectful placing into the trash can and gone out with the trash. So we're trying to discourage that and talking to the funeral homes and saying, if you don't have a home for them, let us have them. We'll research them, and we're trying to find a home for them. And we'll have a permanent home. We have 10 more graves at Avon Cemetery that we can bury unclaimed cremations in. We can fit 150. We learned with this last one, 150 we can place into one grave. So we have 70 already for our next one. So once we get close to that 130 mark, we'll start prepping for another mass burial in that sense. Yes, ma'am? We have a stone, and the previous stone said something to the effect of, here lies the Hamilton family from 1939 to 2009 or something like that. And just saying, and it says 85 souls rest here or something. So they know to come to the cemetery to get more information. So.
There's a lot of laws that relate to this.
There's a whole lot of laws, and that we have the funeral home for that piece. Then we have Chris and I, we do the cemetery side of it, because in I don't know how your guys' cemetery is here, but for our unclaimed that we have to do for the civilians, if it went to our city cemetery, they have to collect so much money per burial, even if it's a free burial. So it's $50 or 10% of the cost of the grave for perpetual care. So for 150 people, if we would have went to the city cemetery, think about how much that would cost to bury 150 people. That's $7,500. So with us being a non-perpetual care cemetery, we can put them in us for free. So it's just little tricks like that we have to do to work around the system to save us money and to make it so we can keep doing this year after year. A little bit about some of the things we do. This was a lady that we buried. We take them out of urns like this. If you notice all the different shapes, could you imagine trying to stack 150 of these into one vault? So we try and get them into nice sized boxes so they all are the same and we can stack them in. That's how we got our 150 in this year. But this was a lady here that she died in 1919 and had not been claimed. Her name is Abby Searle, and her husband died in like 1915. Her and her sons moved to Iowa, and then she died in 1919, and she was cremated. We didn't even have crematories in Iowa at that time. I don't think we got our first crematory until like 1925. So they had to cremate her out of state and come back with her. So that was her. These are some of, you can see that these are some of the urns that we received. So when you receive one in an urn like this, you're going, why did the family forget about that person? They spent so much on an urn, but they left them behind. We think a lot of that is the stigmata of they don't want to take care of the cost of the cremation, but in the state of Iowa, they cannot hold the cremations hostage. So if I have $100,000 bill for the cremation, which is outrageous, let's go serious. Let's say it's a $6,000 funeral bill I have. And I purchased a nice urn for them, but then I'm going, I don't want to pay that bill. I can't afford that. Well, they still have to give you the cremations. They can still hold you accountable through government for the bill, but they can't hold these cremations hostage from you. They have to give them up. So that's one thing we try and get out. You can always pick up your cremations no matter what. Go get your cremations. They can't hold them. We try and reach out into community service. This is Prairie City Monroe High School. They're making our veteran urns for us now. They engrave the top even for Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, and they'll have to change it someday to Space Force. So, but they do that. We have somebody who donates the wood. We have the flags. We have a second high school who wants to make urns, and we're going to suggest they make flag cases because we try and put the flags that we give out into a flag case. So we're trying to get more community involvement. We have children coming who sing for us. Back here in this corner, in the second window, there's a photo. If you get a chance after we're done, look at some of the pictures there. You'll see little kids in the photo. They get involved. They sing for us. They carry the urns. My granddaughter, she was one that placed the urns 2 years ago with children. And afterwards, I asked her about it. She was 6 at the time. And I asked her if she understood what was going on and this and that. And she said yes. And afterwards, I asked, I said, how do you feel? And she goes, I feel really proud that I was able to do this with these kids. So it's nice to be able to get the community out to do this. In our civilian burial we just had, there were like 4 children who brought urns to me to place. And I want to say they were probably 12 years old and younger. So seeing those young generations giving respect to the dead is a nice thing because we've become a disposable society. Our dishwashers break in 2 to 5 years. Our refrigerators 2 to 5 years. Well, now even our ashes are becoming disposable. So people are just getting it. So it's nice seeing some of these kids having that respect and getting that respect back out for people. So Joseph Chedister. This is Joseph Chedister here. He was a Civil War vet who died in 1929 and sat on the shelf until 2 years ago. A little bit about him was he was a Civil War soldier from Tennessee. He fought for the North. After the war, he went to Kansas City and lived in Kansas City for years. From Kansas City, he and his sons, his daughters stayed in Kansas City. His sons went to Redmond, California. His wife died out there. He was a GAR member, which really helped figure out that he fought for the North. So he came back to do the GAR encampments, and in one of his trips back to Des Moines, he met a lady here. They got married. They went back to Redmond. They did all their stuff they do. She wanted to come back and visit family in Des Moines. So he says, okay, I'll send you to Des Moines. I'll go to Kansas City, visit my daughters, and then I'll come back up and pick you up. So on the trip back up to pick him up, he dies. So he dies in Iowa, and nobody claims his body. So he sat on the shelf for 95 years, I believe it was. So we did all the research. We got permission from his 2 third great granddaughters who are both military veterans. One of them is a vet. The other one is still military active. So they gave us permission to bury him. We invited them to the service. Neither one took us up on it. Well, a year after that, Chris and I were in Kansas City. Lene was somewhere else, and we get a call and said, hey, somebody wants to talk to you about Joseph Chedister. They came to talk to us on the phone, and come to find out they were doing find-a-grave searches. And they said, how come Grandpa's got a headstone all of a sudden? So they went to the cemetery, Iowa Veterans Cemetery. They told the story. He called Lene. They called us again. We talked. Kathleen, we don't have a picture of Kathleen. She's probably back in those photos. Kathleen Brandt, she's an African-American genealogist. She does it professionally. She received the flag for Joseph's family. And we picked her because they had so many ties together. She's from Kansas City. Joseph lived in Kansas City. Joseph fought for the freedom of the slaves. She, African American, was a free slave. So we did all of that. He was in the military. She loves military research. That's her favorite thing to research. So there's just so much tying those two together. And I told Lene, I said, the only thing I ask is that Kathleen received the flag for Joseph. Lene says, more than happy to let her do that. So she did that. Lene got to do the placement of the urn in the grave. Well, then these two great-great-granddaughters, the two that were doing the Find a Grave research, they were talking to us and that, and Kathleen says, do they want the flag? Because like I said, she received the flag for the family. Well, family shows up. She goes, do they want the flag? And I said, I never asked them. I said, you've got the flag. You've got it protected. She had it on her mantle at home. She even put it in her will what to do with this flag after she dies. So that's how much she cared about it. So she tells me to call them back. I call them back and we do research, and she says, vet them to make sure that they really are. So they met us in Kansas City because one of them lives in Kansas City. So they met us at the genealogy center down there, and they brought in his buttons from his uniform. They had his discharge, his actual discharge paper. They had photos. They had all kinds of stuff. And I called Kathleen and I said, this is them. And she goes, well, I want to give them the flag. So we set up another situation out at Iowa Veterans Cemetery, and we did a flag exchange from Kathleen to them. Kathleen drove up from Kansas City. The one great-great-granddaughter drove up. The other one drove over from Chicago, and KCCI was there and a few others. We did a turnover service, so the family got the flag again. It was really cool. So, but our whole purpose is to give respect to everybody. You can see we try and do it with Joseph, with Joan Watkins and John Watkins, doing all the research we do. We want to give that respect to everybody, because everybody, they had a purpose in life. Their purpose might not have gone the way they wanted, so they were homeless or they did bad things in their life, but they had a good purpose at one point. Our job is not to judge what they did. It's somebody else's job to judge that. Our job is just to give them the respect we can and give them back to where they're going. So we want everybody to have a proper burial. Alyssa said that there's a Johnson Funeral Home. I almost guarantee they have one. I'm not going to say they have 50, but I almost guarantee you they have one unclaimed cremation. So we're trying to promote that. Anybody that's been in business for 50 years, they have one. If you've been in business for 100 years, you have 50. So yeah, we're just trying to get them to gather together. We've reached out to Waterloo, Sheridan, I think Leon, Sioux City, Iowa City, Marshalltown. They're starting to trust us enough to say, okay, we're going to let you bury our unclaimed. It's a bad stigmata because funeral homes were like, we didn't do our job and do what we were supposed to do, get these buried or whatever. They're called unclaimed for a reason, not because a funeral home didn't do their job, because the family didn't come back and claim them. So, yeah, there are some that they should have spread like they were supposed to. The family should have followed up, things like that. So there's blame on both sides. We're not here to judge them, and we're trying to say one of the funeral homes that gave us up some of the urns, we told them, we said, it's not your problem. You weren't even alive when this lady died. So it's like, it's not your fault. Let's make it look good. So if we can make the funeral homes look good, they're willing to give up more of these. So, yes, sir.
Do you have people that you don't need to know their names?
We have 5. I think right now we've got 5. We have no clue who they are whatsoever. Whenever they go into an urn, since like the 1980s, the state of Iowa has you put a coin in there. They call it a coin, but what it is, it's just a metal slug, and it has a number stamped on it, and it says what funeral home. So I should be able to pull that metal slug for the newer ones and say, who are you? And they should be able to tell me who it is. As long as that funeral home has stayed in business or has passed their documentation onto somebody else. So we have a good, honest effort with it, but if this would not have been marked with her name in that, we would have had no clue who she was. You can, as we dig through some of these cremated ashes, looking for those coins, you can tell how far back the cremation was just by the size of the ashes. If it's really big in that, they didn't crush the ashes, where the newer ones they're really pretty fine. You see a few chunks here and there, but you can tell they're newer crematory ashes. So.
Do you work with different counties? You said you're doing yours all in Avon, which is Polk County, but
Yep.
Madison County, Union County, all the different.
We'll work statewide, so if anybody,
As far as tournaments.
we would like to, if here in Madison County they said, hey, we got all of our funeral homes together and we have 100 cremations, we would love to find a local cemetery to put them in because we want them to be near family. So yes, but if they're shooting them to us like they have been, 1 here, 2 there, 3 there, the expense is too much to go to a cemetery in that area to do that. But yes, we would love to be able to reach out to other areas and do that with them.
Because you're talking about requiring a vault for Avon, but you're not requiring to have vaults for one of the rural cemeteries.
Right.
So
Yep.
that greatly reduces cost. So
Yep. And we could do that. The only problem with that is these would deteriorate a lot quicker. And we had a family from Chicago. They researched and they said, hey, my son was in that first mass burial. They paid us to open it back up. We pulled them out, and yep. So we pulled 3 out with that disinterment because they wanted theirs, and then we had 1 that we thought was a veteran, 2 that we thought were veterans. So we pulled those out. And with us having 85, we replaced it with 3 more. So once we put a number on that, we'll always keep that number in there. So we always have extras to go in. But yes, we would love to work with somebody in this area or even the next county over. And okay, let's get all the surrounding counties together. At least we can centralize them within their part of the state that they are from. So we're always looking for volunteers. How many genealogists we have? One, and he's the youngest one in here. Well, besides Alyssa. But yeah, so we're always looking for people to research. And you always find these special feel-good stories while doing it. And, you know, sometimes you're like, oh, this is really cool. And you get so in-depth. We got a set of twins who are researching now. And one of them, she had a really bad one. And she's like, I got to quit working on this. It's giving me nightmares. And then the other one, she had one that she's like, oh, this is so intriguing. I got to see what I find next. And so you feel good a lot of times. So
What's your biggest need for your nonprofit?
we want them all. We want to put our nonprofit out of business is what we want. And but cost-wise, money is always something we can use because each funeral is somewhere between $6 and $10 grand. 6, and then we have to do things like advertise, and we even went out to Ohio with some of our bags and that just to advertise to them saying, hey, you guys have the same problem. So we're focused in Iowa, but we know it's a countrywide problem, and we want to open up the eyes to everybody else. Just like we started in Polk County, now we're over here with you guys in Madison County, and we've gone to other counties, but we want that to be, if Des Moines, Iowa has it, you have it too. So, yes, ma'am?
How do people volunteer to conduct the services, or how do you, if there's no family, then what kind of service do you have? Do you do it?
You would not believe how the community will come around to unclaimed people. Our 150 unclaimed civilians that we just did, we had 200 people, roughly 200 people at their service. 85 of them volunteered to carry the urns. So they did that. Hy-Vee brought in water. Everybody's trying to reach out to help. So yes, it's all voluntary. Reach out. You get people that, once they get to know us, hey, can I be involved in your service next time? Yep, just come up to us when we get close and start talking to us. Lene just texted me the other day, and she says, I need 2 Navy veterans for this veteran service coming up. So now I got to try and find 2 Navy guys that'll do it. So we're always looking for people to be involved. Just to do one burial, we have an urn bearer, a flag recipient. There's at least 3 for one person, and then sometimes we even have a storyteller, depending on how big the service is. So yes, we get volunteers. We grab friends and say, okay, you're going to do this, and they never tell you no. So.
Do you use just a church in town, or do you have a church where they have the services?
So last year, our church was at Lutheran Hope of Lutheran Church in Waukee. And that'll be there again this year. It's October 3rd. We start about 10 a.m. We open the doors about 9 o'clock-ish so people can come in, start mingling and talking and saying that. We set it up. We don't, I want to say we spare no expense, but really it's a cheap setup for us because we've got everything from the year before where we bought this and bought that. We have to make new banner or new storyboards for everybody, but the storyboards are $10. 15 bucks somewhere in there. And so we set up storyboards. We have the kids who make the urns who are free for us, so we set them up. And if you go to anybody on Facebook, not on Facebook, so if you go to Facebook, go to the Final Salute, you'll see us on there, and you'll see some of our services that we've done.
So you just do one service a year?
For veterans.
So that was your ones for veterans?
Yes. And then we did one for civilians. The children, we've done 2 services for them, and we've only got 1 child right now. I think we've only got 1 child, so we'll wait until we get 5 or 10 children. And then with us knowing for the civilians that we can do 150. Once we get to about the 130 mark, we'll start prepping for that. So, and that was our next civilian we might have next year, because like I said, we have 70 already waiting, so we only need another 60 to really get serious about doing it. If not, it'll be in the next 2 to 3 years we'll have enough civilians.
Do they have to be cremains?
Yes. Yep. Bodies are too heavy for us to carry. So yes, they preserve them long. So we've had some that we've sat, well, just like her, she sat for 107 years. So we've had some within our care for 2 to 3 years sometimes. The coroner ones, we've had over a year. So, yeah, Joseph, he did a lot. He traveled with us. He went places that he probably never been before. We did a movie. If you guys want to see more of our story, there's a movie on Tubi, and it's also on Amazon Prime. Tubi is free. Amazon Prime, you got to pay. It's about Lene's life, how she was adopted, and she was searching for her family, and how we adopt these cremations and we search for their family. So it's kind of like a parallel to her life. So, but it's on Tubi for free and Amazon Prime, and it's called Chasing the Dead Requiem. And everything in that story is true. You have to take some embellishments in certain spots to keep it excited, but all the cremated remains that we found, those were all true stories. We found them in trunks of cars. We found them in on street corners. We found them in above a vent in a basement. We've had people walk into the funeral home, I want to say 5 years ago, 6 years ago. A guy walks in during our veteran service and says, "Here's another veteran." And we're like, So we had to put him aside because we have to do the research for him, but he brought him in that day and said, here's another veteran for you. So,
So things change with, you're talking about the 60 days and the 90 days, that they can come and that they get disposed. But you know, disposed, so like where she was in that situation for years. Is it just different funerals or different, like?
it's all at the discretion of the funeral home. They have the permission to dispose of them at that time. Not saying they have to. They have the permission to. So they just, thank you, they just cannot get rid of them before that time.
So if they dispose of them, where do they dispose of them? You know,
Trash can. Some of them will bury them. They'll give them a legitimate burial, but some don't. Some just keep them on the shelf, and they're waiting. So, yes, sir.
They still do, and they do DNA on.
Yes, you can do DNA on cremated remains. It is not cheap. We have paid for it one time. Kind of paid for it. We didn't really pay for it, but basically they said, we're going to bill you, but we're not going to bill you. And it's like $6,000. So it's not a cheap process. And in the movie, you'll see one that we're talking about that's special in there, and that's who we did. So we did his cremation. Yes, sir?
You talked about the law and that kind of stuff. So who administers that? I mean, for the state of Iowa, you know, anything related to burials and, you know,
So
that kind of stuff.
funeral homes are under the Iowa Insurance Division. It's really weird. You're thinking, why is a funeral home under insurance? Because a lot of people prepay, so it's an insurance policy. So they're under them. Who else are they under? The mortuary board. They are in there. They're in the mix. So they have a few people that they have to answer to. Cemeteries, we answer to the insurance division because you prepay for your lot and that. And they're, for anybody in here working in cemeteries? So, you know, Iowa State Code 523I? So there is a specific code for cemeteries. I do know that one. I don't know Lene's, but, or not Kristen's, but Lene's. I don't know hers, but yes. So we answer to the insurance division and the mortuary board. So, and then any other politician who wants to question us. So, we always invite some dignitaries. You come to our service and you will see a lot of, and I don't like talking politics, but I'm going to talk politics for just a second. We invite both sides, Democrats and Republicans. So if you're a Democrat, I don't care. If you're a Republican, I don't care. But just so you know, if you come, 99% of the time you're going to see a Republican person there. The Democrats do not respond to us. So they are invited, but they do not respond to us. So if you come to our service and you see a Republican and you say, I want my Democratic whoever to be involved, talk to them because we want them there. We want both sides. This is a mutual thing. It's got nothing to do with politics, but we want the Democrats to be there too. So any Democrats in here, talk to your representatives and say, hey, get involved. So we want both sides there. So yes, we do the Patriot Guards and all of those. And yes, they are very heavily involved. They even did our civilian one this time because we had 2 veterans. Something special about this one. We buried 150 in the mass grave, but we buried 2 off to the side. In our mass grave, we had 1 veteran who was not eligible. Off to the side, we buried a father's son. The father was a veteran who received honors last year at our veterans service, and we had his son as well. So we said, we're going to set him aside. We're going to bury him with his son because he has his family, and we put them 2 together in the ground, and he gets a veteran headstone. So it's based upon the time period you served. It depends on if you went into theater of war or not into theater of war. Were you called in as a reservist, called up to serve or not? Did you have good conduct? Did you not have good conduct? There's all kinds of things, and When we get all of the paperwork together, we send it to St. Louis and say, can we bury them with honors, or can we bury them in a funeral home, or do they have nothing? And they come back and say, he gets nothing, or he gets honors but not a grave, or he gets everything. So that's about the three. So it's all up to St. Louis. And down there it's called eligibility. So eligibility says he's eligible, then we get to do it. So, yes, ma'am.
How do you find out when the service is being held?
Our biggest thing is Facebook. We've got a website finally. We had a bad website, and then it got hijacked and that. Our website now is thefinalsaluteiowa.com. But Facebook is our best way to see, because they post on it constantly. And you'll see they'll post stories about our veterans, they'll post some stories about civilians, they'll talk about it. There's thousands of photos of all the services, thousands. And then she'll start putting it out. KCCI is another one. They do a lot of stories on us. Simon, he's a big backer of ours. So yes. Anything else? How we doing, Alyssa?